This is really an intense conversation, and it's because data is the commodity of the fourth industrial revolution. So just like first there was precious metals, then we had oil, now we're dealing with data. So data is the new oil. We need to learn to more effectively protect ourselves from some of the bad things that the bad actors are working on. And believe it or not, this list hasn't changed significantly. Maybe the addition of LLMs and some dark AI. This has not changed significantly over the last 15 years. Security has always been a problem. Data has always been a victim. Identity has always been a victim. We just haven't evolved effectively to do better. So trust me, just click here. Ransomware is one of the biggest legitimate threats we have in the world right now when it comes to cybersecurity. The ability for the bad actors to social engineer us and get us to click on something to deploy a payload that ends up eventually encrypting our information is a significant active threat in this world. Just looking at 3 months, I like to share legitimate and accurate data. And so I've got some data for June, July, and August. 3 months, there were 3.3 million cyber attacks in North America, 26 attacks per minute that were reported. And that is almost a 50% increase from what we were able to monitor and report last year for that same period. And in that time, the information we're seeing is it's 2.9 unique malware samples a minute in terms of the attack vectors the type of malware that was coming into our systems. And this is fascinating information because the bad actor organizations have grown significantly into what we would call franchises. So we've all heard of companies such as Clock and Transparent Tribe and Luminous Moth. These are all organizations that work in a ransomware as a service capacity to be able to come after us for our data. This year alone, forecasted by IDC, it's going to cost us $30 billion globally to deal with ransomware. And a lot of this has to do with organizations not understanding where their data exists, who has it, and why. And I'm talking a little bit about dark LLMs now. If you don't know about Worm GPT and Fraud GPT, these are real threats that we're experiencing because the good guys, we have all created ChatGPT and GPT-based learning models that we're using in our companies and for personal use to do good things, help us write blogs better, help us do research better, answer some questions we would have taken a lot longer to figure out. And we want to do good things with them. But the bad guys have released bad GPT models based on the same OpenAI platform to do bad things. I've actually personally experienced and gotten to see Worm GPT in action. And anything that you would ask ChatGPT on one screen, like we have two screens going on two different computers, you would ask ChatGPT and it will tell you this is unethical, I'm sorry, we're not supposed to do this. And you can we tried many times to fool ChatGPT to answer these questions. Ineffective. Worm GPT didn't even bother. Answered the question right away, gave us full detailed instructions on how to do some very bad stuff. The important thing for you to know when it comes to data is the bad actors can now use Worm GPT and Fraud GPT to write really good emails, creative content that can easily mislead you. And one of the biggest things that Dark GPT allows you to do is large DDoS attacks coordinated on specific organizations, domains, and IPs. They have access to the same tools we do as the good guys. So, everything that we would do for penetration testing or to do vulnerability assessments, they're able to use the good tools for bad use. I do want to say that when it comes to using ChatGPT, I will encourage all organizations to truly consider the policy side of how this is being adopted within the enterprise. And it's a difficult decision to say, are we going to do our own closed LLMs, or are we going to share what we're doing with the public ChatGPT? There's a lot of intellectual capital and information that can be leaked. I'm going to use Samsung as an example, but they're not the only ones. We've all heard of what happened when their developers started using ChatGPT to help them build code, and source code was leaked online. So definitely be aware of it. There's a policy aspect of this as well. The same AI systems are being used with voice cloning aids for cybercrime. So you will know of this in the capacity of the grandparent scheme, where people call, pretend to be the grandchild, and extort money from the elderly to say, oh yeah, your grandson or granddaughter is stuck in an accident. We have them hostage. We need 10K. That's what happens. Deep fake videos. We've all seen quite a few of these on different social media sites. And as I mentioned earlier, the relentless DDoS attacks using AI. Now, where does this go? All of this seems to be going towards targeting SMBs. So we can all go after them. You know, you saw that earlier this year, we opened January with sick kids being encrypted, right? So in terms of big organizations, the bad actors have their pick of who they want to go after. But I think they're learning that if they go after the SMBs, chances are they're going to get the $8,000 or $10,000 or $50,000 that they're requiring, compared to going after the big guys and say, I want 2.3 million. Chances are they've got good backups, they've got good systems, they won't pay, they'll just recover and keep going, right? Bad actors have figured out when it comes to data and exfiltration, as well as keeping it hostage, small businesses are more likely to pay because they don't want to call their insurance company. They don't want to go through the hassle of, they didn't have a good backup. They can't start over. They don't want to go out of business. They'll probably pay and just keep working on it. And it's becoming more and more common that extorting money out of small businesses is becoming easier and easier for ransomware as a service organizations. This comes down to understanding what is the cost of loss to your organization, how important your data is and then your identity is, and what are you going to do to prevent it from being taken away from you. I put a really cool Bitcoin address, and if you did scan the QR code on the glass, I want you to do me a favor and just put in the chat the word yes. I'm just curious as to how many of you scanned that QR code. It is a real problem companies as well as individuals are falling victim to these days. It's called quishing. Stickers of QR codes on top of other QR codes where, you know, you'd be like, hey, I'm looking at this ad at this bus stop. There's a QR code. I'm going to scan it. It's nothing to do with the ad, but you scanned it and voluntarily either give up information or have some sort of a malware installed on your device because that happened, and then now the bad actors have access to your data. More importantly, and very new on the dark web side of things, your Bitcoin wallets or your crypto wallets and asset management. Believe it or not, these are data elements, and you will be surprised how many people in their corporate mail system have stored their screenshots or copy paste of passphrases to recover wallet keys. And sometimes the corresponding wallet address with the passphrase key in a OneNote file or in a notepad file. So when information gets stolen, this information goes with it, and it's a beautiful bonus for the bad guys. We really have to think of what data we want to store, where are we going to store it, how are we storing it, and who do we want to be able to have access to it. One of the bigger challenges in small businesses especially, you don't have the tools, the people, the process to do it. And it's a grossly underserved market, and they're easily falling victim to this. Small businesses are attacked by phishing and social engineering, which results in credential theft. That's the one thing all bad actors want from you, is they want your identity. As a result of that, 60% of business owners who don't think that their business is a target for cyber criminals, they're the ones that are going to get attacked. Oh, I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a lot of information, but I'm a small chiropractor clinic. I'm a small travel facility. Well, you all have identifiable information in most businesses. If you're not, most of us use third-party merchants for credit card transactions nowadays. But if you have a list of name, address, phone number, and email, that's good enough for some of these bad guys, because they're going to use you to get more information about these people to then eventually attack them. It's all connected. In another talk, I talk about understanding OSINT, open source information. It's very easy for bad actors to hack a small business, find out who their biggest client is, go and look up that client on Facebook, find out, oh, cool, they have an open profile, they've got a dog, they've got 2 kids, their daughter just had a birthday, oh, and they're going to Mexico on this date because they booked it with this little travel agency that I just hacked. Now, using OSINT information, they could social engineer a relationship or data that will either convince you as a business owner or me as a traveler to click on a link because it's related to my trip. And chances are, somewhere along the way, there's a login. If I know your dog, I know your kids, and I know their birthdays, it's not hard to do some sort of brute force password hacking within 60 minutes to try to get a password. And then if I'm a CEO of a company and you know I'm going to Mexico and you hack my password, why not try it on my company domain account on portal.office.com? Because chances are you use the password. And this is how people are falling victim to being attacked. I love those signs every September that people put up that have a picture of their child, the age, the school, the teacher's name, their favorite food, what they want to be when they grow up, because all that metadata is amazing if I need to lure your child or use information about your child to get you to click on a link. Because I know your daughter wants to be an astronaut, click here for 3-year-old astronaut camp, completely free in your neighborhood. Like 90% of people wouldn't think twice because the content lines up with my purpose. And that's what these bad guys are doing. And they're now using Worm GPT and Fraud GPT to write these emails. So they sound, you're not going to get the your traditional Nigerian prince emails with all the typos at the bottom. So it's harder to detect. So we have to stay vigilant and we have to stay alert. It's 8 p.m. Do you know where your data is? What are you trying to secure? What is the purpose of implementing security in your company? Because if you don't understand the fundamental definition of what are these crown jewels, what are the assets that are valuable to you, you're not going to be able to focus the energy on the right things. I see a lot of large organizations implementing layered security across multiple tools, but they lose sight of the purpose and efficiency because as an engineer, if you're having to pay attention to multiple screens and multiple signals and multiple sources, you're going to be that much more effective in detecting a problem when it happens. How important, or how are you prioritizing what's important? So ask yourselves in your company, in your personal life, do you have the right detect, manage, and protect, identify, detect, manage, and protect capabilities? Because if you don't know how to prioritize what is the most important thing to you, you surely don't know how to protect it. You're surely not doing the right thing to protect it. A good example of this is when you see a president of the United States leave his term or her term, the security detail follows them into their civilian life. Why? This security detail knows more about the asset that they're protecting than the asset sometimes knows themselves. These guys and gals who are protecting the president know that they need to go pee before the person says, hey, I need to find a washroom. So they've already cleared it and secured it so that when he asks to go to the bathroom, it's ready to go. So we have to take that stance with our data because there's so much of it and it is so abundant and we create so much of it every second of the day that without that relentless focus, we're just going to be ineffective. And in that journey of prioritization, what is sensitivity? You know, what makes something more important than the other? And having that delineation in the organization, whether you're a small business or a huge enterprise, is key because it also drives towards having visibility to the priorities and understanding how to protect them. You're going to put more effort into classified, sensitive, internal, restricted than you will general public information. Compliance is security, right? Not. Compliance is not security. It is a foundation for security. I run into several people who have, oh, well, we just did a SOC 2 assessment and we came out good. Or we just did a NIST assessment and everything, we're happy with our score. But without the actual ability to have repetitive processes around detection and monitoring and managing and remediation, compliance is just a framework that says this is the things that you should be doing. You might have shown me once or twice you can do it, but actively to actually be able to do it is the definition of security. Running a query and understanding that, you looked in SharePoint, you understand where all your data is, and you understand who has access to it, and you did it once 4 months ago, that does not mean you have visibility to data. It means nothing. It means at a point in time, you looked at stuff and you were happy with it. But how do you bring that continuous visibility? How do you bring that continuous tracking to data and put it all together in one spot? Very important. 33% of data breaches involve an internal team member, insider threat. About 80% of those, or 78% of those, were unintentional innocent exposure. Why? The data, you sent your T4, so those of you who are international, in Canada, T4 is your sort of statement from the government at the end of the year that you paid, this is how much money you made and how many taxes you paid, and it's got all your social insurance information, your address, employer details, all that stuff. You go to apply for a mortgage at a bank, and the bank's sending you a T4. You send it over your Gmail account to the banker's account. The banker says, okay, cool, I'm going to keep it here. I'm going to download it, put it on my computer, and I'm going to now upload it into the other system. There are 3 copies of this file made. It's in your Gmail, it's in their computer, and now it's also in their correct application. Should it be on the computer? Did you delete it from your sent items in your Gmail? I don't know. Is the organization taking responsibility for that data to sit on a local machine or replicated to that user's private OneDrive? Because now when that user got breached, knock on wood, your T4 was part of that breach. And they never intended for data to be stored locally. But that's an example of innocent insider threat. Gone fishing. So there are many types of phishing exploits. They come on your phone, SMS, schmishing, emails, which is your traditional phishing, QR codes called quishing. It's a play on our emotional vulnerability and a manipulation on us to say, this is something interesting. I'm actually looking for this. I want to go look at this, right? Hey, Nim, you've been searching for cars on AutoTrader. Here's a car that you've been looking for. Click here. And if I was truly looking for cars and this came up, I probably would have clicked on it. And, it is that 10 seconds of validating, is this real? Should this, where did it come from? Is the email address valid? Is there something wrong with the way it's being asked? No governing body, like a properly governed body of financial health or government, will ever ask you to click on a link to change your password. They will tell you there's been suspicious activity. Go to your account and figure it out. Canada Post, US Postal Service, FedEx, DHL, UPS will never send you an email saying, click on this link because you need to update something about your parcel. There's something about your parcel that has happened. Go to your profile and check it out. And these are simple drills. Believe it or not, I run these drills on my parents who are 86 and 75, and it drives them crazy. But the only way we're ever going to get better at this is practice and thoroughly understanding repetitively what's good, what's bad. Even then, we're going to get caught. But this is where, it's a layered family of controls that are protecting us. You could click on the link, but then now there's organization controls in place to catch that should you have gone to a bad website, or block that website and tell you it's suspicious. Most times, if it's asking you for a password, you should be thinking twice. That's my rule of thumb. What I tell my parents, is what I tell all my businesses that I work with, is if you click on a link and says, give me your username and password, that's when you need to think twice. And always check the link, HTTPS, look for the padlock. I don't want to dwell on it, but the 62% of infiltrations of ransomware start with phishing, because you click on that link, you think there's a PDF file, you need to download to your downloads folder, you double click it, runs a JSP or runs some sort of a code on your machine, and off it goes, right? Happened so quickly, you didn't even see it. Who's the victim? It's our data. And I think given that it is the most valuable commodity as we enter the era of AIs and LLMs and quantum computing, we need to do better for our data. Identity and data are the two things bad actors want. They start with your identity, and however means personal or corporate that gets compromised, one will lead to the other, I promise you, and that results in data that's going to suffer in the hands of those who are going to misuse it. How are we going to mitigate from this? We have to implement controls that is going to identify and protect identity and information on a continuous, recurring basis. This means we have to clearly define what we're protecting, why we're protecting, and what are we going to do if something goes wrong with this data. And to do that, we have to gain visibility on where it is, who has it, and what we need to do to secure it. But what I want you to take away from our talk is, now that we've talked a lot about the different bad things that can happen, reflect introspectively as to what are you doing in your company to do better at these things. 92% of businesses with backups get hit by ransomware. 31% fail to recover the data successfully. RTO, if you're a CISO, if you're a director of security, technology, business owner, recovery time objective, RTO, that is the SLA that is going to say you either have a job at the end of this or you don't. And if 31% of the 92% of businesses have failed, that's 1/3 of them have failed, that means the RTO was clearly missed. So we have to start thinking about how to proactively mitigate bad things from happening to our information.
Yeah, thank you, Nim. Great information and insights. I do have a couple questions. So the first one, if I lose money because of phishing, is there a way to get that money back?
So it really depends. Losing money due to phishing is typically not covered by your bank because it is a willingness act of committing funds to what you believed was correct at the time. So you willingly did it. You weren't extorted from it and it wasn't taken from you. You did it. Same thing with Interact fraud, right? You might send an email to me, Interact transfer $500, but if a bad actor has already changed the Interact from my account to his bank account, then I'm on my own, right? You sent me the money, I lost it. So there are many cases where that is not covered. However, if this is through an organization and from a corporate perspective, it was accounting fraud where they faked an invoice and the invoice got paid from one bank to another bank, typically accounts are flagged. I have a real life example of a $120,000 transaction right now that is being held by TD Bank here in Canada, and the funds will be returned to the organization because that account was flagged and they were monitoring, and the bad actor did not get their hands on the money because they blocked the account. So the answer is sometimes, but most times no.
Sounds good. Can you share a real life incident of a data breach during an event? And if you can tell us the impact on attendees and the organizers.
I had an event where they mass blasted using airdrop to those who accepted it, malware on their phones. And a lot of people didn't know, but these guys were walking around and they were just airdropping stuff, and it would look like a picture, and people were like, hey, cool, there's a picture, boom, and information. A lot of people got compromised. And guess what? The event coordinators were not at fault for this because it's your device and you had airdrop from anyone enabled, and that is a known issue, and you willingly accepted it. They did make some announcements on the microphone. It was pretty embarrassing. It wasn't a security event, but it was a data security event. So it's data.
One more question. What challenges arise in terms of data security with the increasing hybrid nature of events, and how can they be addressed?
So hybrid events are interesting because there's a lot of attendees that you can never screen out black hats from attending an event. I think the obligation of using a secure platform, such as Eventcombo is doing, and making sure that information is protected, people are invited and accepted, there's some sort of monitoring going on. These are all important things to do, but it comes down to how does the event organizers protect the data of the registrants that attended the event. Nothing happens during the event, but it's the phishing that happens after, and these guys get the list. I actually have an email right now that I'm working on where one of the shows I spoke at, they're trying to sell me the data from an event that I spoke at. And I've been telling the organizers, you've gotten hacked, and our list is now public.
All right, that sounds good. That's an amazing session. We'd like to thank you, Nim.
Thank you, everyone.